Hey everyone, welcome to Intentional Household. My name is Alex Wilson, broker owner, Remax Wealth Builders Real Estate, entrepreneur, co-founder of this great company and podcast. And today's episode is prioritizing yourself so you don't end up divorced, alienated from your family, or even worse, dead. Let's get into it.
So Alex, let's get into the common belief that being a good parent means putting yourself last and putting your kids first. That is certainly how we were both raised. And it seems like now in 2025, there has been a shift and many parents are understanding the importance of putting themselves first.
So when we were talking about this show previously, I thought I was going to go in one direction. And then right before we started this podcast, I had a revelation. And then you had a revelation like just seconds ago. Realizing that, well, if you don't prioritize self-care, I'm like, well, you could end up divorced or dead. Well, my dad died at 48. And then you just brought up, yeah, you know what? My dad died too from a heart attack. And how old was your dad?
He was 57. Mm-hmm. It was a sudden heart attack. And I was saying that if he would have had, there are so many things that he could have done that could have prevented his heart attack. And with stress management being one, certainly self-care, putting more time into himself, his health, his mental health. I'm sure that would have made a huge impact.
Yeah, and that's where we recently came back from a retreat of entrepreneurial spouses called Rebel Dads. And it was a bunch of people that were focused in on being better versions of themselves so they can have a successful business and also have a successful family. And people want to prioritize their own self-care. And that's where we had the opportunity to hear Richard Branson speak to us. And he is someone that believes in self-care. And he has a circle philosophy. So you have different circles. And the first circle is around you, the individual. And why it's important for you to look after yourself, the individual, is that if you're not taking yourself, you can't be the best version of you to the next person, the next circle, which is your spouse, where many people probably think the kids are the next circle, but the spouse is the next circle. Because if you want to be the best version of you, make sure you're satisfied so you can be the best version of yourself to your spouse. And you're giving them the support. And then that allows them and you to be partners to do best versions of yourselves together for your children. And then you're giving the best of you to them and being great role models to them. And then it continues to expand. Once you're the best version for them, you can be the best version for your family. Then you can be the best version of yourself for your employees. Your business partners, your best version of yourself for your community, your town, your city, your world. And I go to the world level because that is something that he as an individual has achieved. He's the peak epitome of someone that is able to give the best version of himself to everyone, which Laura and I have been able to witness. And then again, like going back and thinking of it and talking about, okay, let's look back at our childhood when we were taught to work hard, sacrifice. And we saw our parents sacrifice, and it ultimately took their lives through, stress. You're saying your dad with the sudden heart attack, my dad ended up taking his own life. And these were things that we feel strongly we don't want to role model to our kids. We want to be the positive role models to our kids, and we want to be around for our kids as well.
That's right. We want to be around. And by putting, there are many people depending on us, right? My kids are depending on me. You're depending on me. If you have a company, a business, those people are depending on you. There are many individuals depending on you. So it's important to prioritize yourself so that you can be there and you can be around as long as possible to enjoy life with those who matter most to you.
And I can say, like, when I, and this is not something that I've been living my mantra with for my whole life. Anyone that's known me knows that, no, that maybe not. I have been living in my 20s and my 30s. But really the change happened for me was, and I know exactly when it happened. Maybe I've referenced it, or maybe you'll hear me talk about it on the podcast before, but we had our first daughter, and it was a very busy time and work at that time. I didn't have a team, just solo at the time. And I said to Laura, I'm like, okay, well, our daughter's coming and this is when the due date is. I'm going to be really busy with work. So can you make sure that we have support around? Because I won't be around. And Laura's like, no problem. She was great. So she had arranged for support for the first 6 weeks. I was busy with work. Then that 6 weeks went to 8 weeks. And then it was a Friday evening and I was walking out the door for something. And she's like, where are you going? And I'm like, oh, I have something to do for work. And that's when she put her foot down and she said, you know what? You have a responsibility to this family. We need you to be a father to your child. I need you to be a husband. So you need to make a decision right now if you want to be here for this. And that was really an eye opener for me. I'm like, wow, I need to make changes on how I operate in order to be the best version of myself, to show up for Laura, my spouse, and my new daughter. And these aren't things that change overnight. They take time, but you can do them piece by piece to be a better version of yourself and take care of yourself. And then you can show up and be the better version to your spouse and a better version to your children. It goes on and on and on and on.
It definitely is an evolution, and change takes time, and you don't just change everything overnight. So what I was thinking for both of us was, when I would say we really started prioritizing ourselves, both of us at the same time, was when it wasn't until we actually had our third child and we both had body pains and aches. And I mean, for me, that was the biggest motivator to put myself first, because it's very hard functioning day to day when you're in pain. And then you have 3 kids who want to go outside and they want to play and they want to pick you up. And do you want to be that person who can't pick up your baby or toddler or preschooler because you have the back pain and you haven't prioritized making change?
Oh yeah, like I thought I needed a hip replacement. I'm like, what is wrong with, like, why am I so, this makes no sense. Why am I sore? And I thought I had major issues with my body. No, I just needed to go work out and strengthen my body and strengthen my core. And it's just because we had 3 children over a short period of time. It had probably been 5 years, roughly, that, we've just been prioritizing and reproducing. And not taking care of ourselves.
That's right. We were prioritizing our kids.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't putting ourselves first. And then it took until the third child for us to finally prioritize ourselves and take care of ourselves. So that's when I would say the journey for us began consistently.
And I would say that is the physical self-care.
Yes,
self-care.
It is. Yeah.
And going back, there's the physical self-care, but in order to do physical self-care, in order to take care of mental self-care, you know what you need?
What?
Time.
That's right.
You need time to do these things. So how do you create time? You got to create space for that time, and not just time that you're physically there, but it's that time when you're mentally there as well. You're not thinking about work or other things, and you got to create time for yourself. And it's not easy to create time, but you can create time. And how do I know that you can create time? Is we've seen incredibly successful people have time, and we've seen other individuals not have any time. And here's something that's coming on top of my head, a new revelation. It's people's inability to create time, which impacts their ability to achieve a level of success that is self-satisfying for them.
Well, and within that, it's setting boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So you are someone who you've been really great. I mean, you're extremely busy. Everyone is as busy as they want to be, but you make it a priority. So what are some of the boundaries you have set, or some of the things you have done to allow yourself to make time for working out, going for bike rides, doing your cold plunges, waking up early?
Yeah. So I will say you are way better at creating time than I am creating time, because you create very, very strong boundaries. So I would say that it's an evolution for me. But first of all, let's say where you're talking about the physical side of it. So working out. Um, I have a personal trainer. Now, I still go to a personal trainer. I go to a personal trainer 3 times a week. Um, and why I still go to a personal trainer 3 times a week is a few reasons. Number one, and especially when I started out, number one was to obtain the confidence and capabilities. And what I mean by confidence and capabilities, I want to make sure I'm doing the exercises right. I don't want to injure myself in doing the exercises. So one of my obstacles to going to the gym was like, I don't even know what I need to do, the correct exercises to make me feel better. So that was number one, getting a trainer to make sure I was doing the correct exercises to make me feel better and I'm doing them correctly so I don't injure myself. Number two, I actually started out with 2 times a week, and then I upped it to 3 times a week because I just wanted that accountability. It's at a large expense, like, absolutely, but it's part of our budget in regards to our self care. And uh, probably the single most important thing that I do for self care is going to see my trainer 3 times a week. And I will say to his name's Jason. I'll say to Jason, there's a trainer day. And what I mean by a trainer day is I wouldn't have been here if I didn't have a scheduled appointment because I'm tired or I'm busy. By having that set in my schedule and then the accountability I have to show up to see someone, I don't miss my appointments. And that way I can go 3 times a week. Like there's that accountability set. So that's number one on the trainer side. Yeah, Laura?
And I will say that having accountability helps. And you can have a friend who is going to meet you, who you work out with. But if you cancel on your friend, I mean, you don't want to be that person canceling on your friend. But if you do cancel on your friend, there's no physical cost, right, associated with that. But if you want to cancel on your trainer, you still have to pay for that session. So that does help and motivate you.
Yeah, it's monetary. Like it's prepaid. It's already done.
Yeah.
If I don't cancel 24 hours before, I've already paid for that session. And also we like I may see a trainer 3 times a week, and that may not be possible for everyone. But then you can join like an F45 fitness, or something along those lines, where you may have it's a more affordable option, but there's still an accountability to that, right? You're going to a group training session or a CrossFit or something like that, where it's more affordable to go because it's broken down by groups, but that group is going to hold you accountable. Like, why weren't you here on Wednesday? And the other thing is too, when you start falling behind, guess what? It really sucks to get back into it. So once you build up a certain level, you don't want to go back to feeling like crap. And that's a great motivation, not feeling like crap. So even when Laura and I go on vacations, and I would never thought I was this individual back in the day, but we do go to gyms when we work out, and it's basically to maintain our level of fitness so we don't feel like crap when we go back to the gym and our trainers are working us out again. Well,
I do it so that I feel good, because working out actually makes me feel good.
Well, it makes me feel good as well. But I'm also scared about feeling crap and then having to work hard to get back to my baseline again. So that's one thing, just specifically on the physical side. Then on the mental side, and Laura and I have done so many different coaching sessions, and that's where they talk about self-care, but that's creating space for you to think, be free, to disconnect. So one thing that we do, and it's been popular when we talk to people about it, and I think we should dive more into it, because it has to be fair to both partners. But we have a Saturday nanny. So on Saturdays it's my day to go out and do things, whether I have work to do, whether I want to run errands, or I want to go for a bike ride. So I was doing long bike rides on in the summer and the fall months. And that gave me, especially on the bike rides, were a great time to think and be free, and have that space to really realize where we are as I am for an individual, as a family, with your children, with life in general, right? Things are good. So it just gives you that space to feel better and to think through any problems and enjoy yourself. So you got to create that space. Now, whenever we tell that story that we got to set, and then at home, Laura's with the kids, with the Saturday nanny doing things. And a lot of people are like, wow, I want a Saturday nanny. And then the spouse is like, yeah, well, what about me? So it has to be fair, right? So Laura is able to get her free time in other ways. So Laura, why don't you talk about some of the ways you get your free time so that you're comfortable giving me a Saturday? And also, it's our different personality types as well. I get a full day, but you make up that time throughout the week.
Mm-hmm. And again, we've talked about this in the past. I don't want the Saturday off because that's when the kids are around. And so Saturday is actually the one day when I so rarely work out. We are going to get into this, but you need to find a time that works best for you and what interests you. I actually love working out or doing activity in the morning. So a couple mornings throughout the week, I will play tennis or I'll work out or I will do the reformer. It's just a time that works for the schedule. It doesn't interfere with the family or the kids. So I really like that.
You also do like on Fridays. You also will go away sometime on Friday, sometimes on Friday.
Yes, that is right. So I will make it a priority every once a month. I will sleep over at a friend's house, and that is our time that we spend together. And I make it very clear to the kids when I leave because they don't always want me to leave, and they don't want me spending the night elsewhere. But to me, I am role modeling to them the importance of taking care of myself, prioritizing my friendships, and allowing them to see that so that hopefully they will do that for themselves in the future.
Yeah, and then we literally use the line, "Hey, we are going to go spend time on ourselves so we can show up and be better parents for you the following day." And going about setting those times, like, and then Sunday for me, I'm dedicated to the family, 100% dedicated to the family. And by having that space on Saturday for myself to take care of these things, I have a nice free and clear mind on Sunday to be the best possible version of myself. Um,
And because on the flip side, we know what can happen. I mean, I certainly can turn into a witch and get really grumpy and
Guys, I didn't say it. I didn't.
and just not be the most pleasant individual around the house. So and right, like Alex, you see that, the kids see that. So I really need to take care of myself because in the household, you want a mom who's happy. And that has effects on everyone in the family.
And what it'll come down to is sitting down with your spouse and going, hey, you know what? Let's plan out a week. Let's plan out a month. Let's plan out a year. Or like, and I'm just like literally sit down and let's talk to someone. And let's plan out a general structure of the week so that both you and your spouse have those free time moments to, work on yourself physically, to work on yourself mentally so that you're the best version of yourself when you show up for your children, for your spouse. It is so important. And guess what? You can do it. You may listen to this and go like, I'm too busy. I can't do that. I have no free time. You do. You just have to make the free time. And Laura says, I'm a busy person. And I still do things that I should not do. Because these are things I should outsource. But you can make the free time. Everyone has the ability to make the free time. And that's also why we created the company called Intentional Household. It's showing people how they can create the free time because it's so important. It'll allow you to be a better version of yourself when you take care of yourself, and it gives you that time to do that.
So for individuals who do want to get started, on prioritizing self-care, I'd love to discuss some strategies that they can consider to implement self-care into their lives. So the first thing I would say is considering your own schedule. Like you said, Alex, talking it over with your partner, thinking about the time that works best for you and your schedule. Like I said, I like working out in the morning, but you like working out later toward the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think I'm very unique in the time that I work out, but I tell people, like, I work out at 3 o'clock, and people are like, oh, that's interesting. But it's because in the morning that I'm the freshest and I'm the crispest. That's the best time for me to think. I'd rather read, journal, maybe catch up on some items. So I don't want to use that time to work out. And then evenings, that not possible. Like, you got the kids and I want to go to bed. Like bedtime routine. So at 3 o'clock, that's when I'm usually mentally drained, and I go to the trainer. I don't need to think. They just tell me what to do, and I just need to work out physically. I don't need to be there mentally. So that's why I do the 3 o'clock workout, and it works out well for me.
Okay, so I would say the first thing is considering your own schedule and being realistic about the time. Because if you're not an early riser and you see a class that's being offered at 6 a.m. and you think, I'm going to start doing that, I can, that might be a larger challenge for you. So thinking about a realistic time that works for your schedule.
Now, I will fight you on that.
Okay.
Because you were not a morning person and you changed your habits to accommodate morning fitness. So I think to clarify is that if there are different ways to create time, and you may view yourself as not a morning person per se, but what you do is you're like, I'm not a morning person, but if you're staying up till 11 p.m., then yeah, you're not a morning person. You have to sleep. But if you take those 2 hours off the end of your day and go like, I'll go to bed at 9 instead of 11, then I can add those 2 hours to the morning. Then you can become a morning person. Because guess what? If you wake up early, you're tired and you're going to fall asleep at night. So it takes about a week to shift your body to do that. It may not happen one time, after one time, but you can become a morning person. We are both evidence of that. We have both made changes like that. But it's like, okay, well, if the only time I can work out is at 6 a.m., but I'm not a morning person, then you have to change your evening routines to become a morning person.
Yes, that's right. The next thing I would consider, what are activities you enjoy doing? Because there's no point in starting an activity that you really don't enjoy doing. So I would create a list of the activities that you've been wanting to start doing, maybe start trying, or activities that you've done in the past that you've really enjoyed doing. I think that's the easiest way to get started because you really need to enjoy what you're doing.
And I'll also add, to be successful in these, it's good to have something to work towards. And what I mean work towards, whether it's, the easiest example is, I want to run a 10K. So in order I sign up for a race, and what do I need to do backwards to be successful at the race? And that's going to motivate you to run. Or I know, again, Laura, for example, when she got into tennis, she was playing tennis somewhere, and she wasn't happy with her performance. And then she was motivated, I'm going to get better in tennis so that when I go there again, I can not be bad. It was really, really what it was. So if you said that, and then for me, it's again, for those that know, I got in that biking accident like about a year or so ago, and I was motivated to bike ride this year because I was doing that same bike ride again. I'm like, I want to make sure I'm in much better shape for that bike ride. That was really, really hard. So that was a motivation for me. So I'd say set an event that you have to go participate in, and that'll motivate you to change your lifestyle because you have to work to be successful at that event.
Yes, a goal or motivation always helps. Again, I was saying my original goal was to not have body aches and pains, but having a goal such as, having flatter abs, or having a 6-pack, looking better, reducing pant size, that is not really going to be much of a motivator. You need something that is much bigger than that.
Absolutely agree. When we both went to the gym, neither of us had a body image that we were looking to achieve. We're like, we just want to feel better. It wasn't about winning or anything. It's just we wanted to physically feel better, and that has led to incredible success at using the fitness facility.
So you mentioned fitness facility. Another factor is thinking about the location, and a location that is convenient to you. Because if it is a location that's far, inaccessible, just more challenging for you to get to, it's going to make your likelihood of continuing going there more difficult. So whether it's at home and doing something, some people actually do have success doing an online class or doing their bike set up with an app like Peloton, or choosing a class in the neighborhood. I find that is something that is going to lead to success rather than having to drive 30 minutes.
I'll also add too that you're also role modeling for your children as well. So if you're being physically active, if you just want another point of motivation for yourself, you're like, wow, I want to make sure that my kids are physically active. Well, if they see you being physically active, they're copycats. Like, they're watching everything you do. They don't listen, but they're watching. And by you doing these things, they're going to be inclined to mimic your behavior. So just by working out, you are instilling good traits in your children. We're just going to get physical activity because they're going to remember those things, and they're going to want to do it on their own too.
So that it brings me to my next point, because I'm thinking about, what about individuals who say, I am struggling to find time. I don't have a lot of free time because I have so many kids. My kids are in so many activities. How am I going to do it? One opportunity is, if you do go to your kids' activities, you have an hour where you're waiting around, you're sitting, you're watching, you're waiting. You could use that opportunity in that hour to get moving. So instead of sitting, certainly sitting and reading a book that is a form of self-care, I would say, because some people enjoy reading and don't otherwise get an opportunity to read.
No, they're listening to our podcast at these events.
But that is another opportunity. If you're, say, at the hockey arena and there's a track, walking around the track. If you're, at a soccer field or a ball diamond, or when our kids play tennis, we use that opportunity to play tennis as well. But it's finding opportunities to sneak it in a little more informally, if you will.
Well, that's where you just look at your calendar and look at your dead time in your calendar. What I mean dead time, you're like, well, I'm not actually doing anything productive here. Is there some way that I can remove this from my calendar, or you make that productive time in my calendar? Or maybe, given that example, okay, while you're there, is there something that you can do during that time that will free up time somewhere else where then you can go to the gym, right? Like, you're going to allocate that time to do something. So again, it's being smart with your calendar and doing different things. Or do you actually have to bring your kid that activity? Is there a parent that you can share duties with of another family that's going, and then that'll create new time. So just, I know everyone's busy out there,
mm-hmm.
and that's why these may seem like easy things, but when you're an exhausted parent, you're mm-hmm. just trying to survive.
Yeah.
So there's many low-hanging fruit that you can tap into to create more time. Because again, once you create more time for yourself and take care of yourself, it is going to free you to actually create more time for yourself, because you're fresher, you're crisper. Again, the idea of the low-hanging fruit, hey, can another parent take your kid? If you're exhausted, you're just not going to think of that, because you don't have the energy to ask the other parent. Yep. But once you start taking care of yourself, you start seeing more, because you're fresh and you're crisp, and you can make those decisions.
And I think it can be hard for some individuals to ask and to reach out to other parents. But what I've noticed is that when I do ask and reach out, the other parents are more than happy to help out. And on the flip side, I'm more than happy to help out as well when someone asks me to drive or pick up their child. One other thing I was going to say is, you mentioned Saturdays. That's a day you have off. But Saturday evening is also an opportunity when maybe you're not going to the gym, but you've used that as an opportunity to connect with a friend and cold plunge together.
Oh, that's Friday.
Oh, that's Friday. Well,
Friday.
I think you had done that on a Saturday as well, which it doesn't matter if it's a Friday, Saturday, same idea. I think it's okay if one parent stays home with the kids and the other parent goes and enjoys themselves in that evening, whether it's with their friends or it's working out, doing an activity, or going to do a cold plunge.
Well, exactly it. Like it's one of those things where you talk with your spouse and hey, one night a week, maybe one parent is staying home with the kids and then you're out taking care of yourself. But again, give that back. You got to do that vice versa. Also going into our every Friday, we have childcare taken care of so that either Laura and I will have a date night or Laura and I will go see friends. So we have that free night where we can work on ourselves or work on each other or work on our social network. So again, it's something that's in the calendar. It's an appointment. We know it's always there. So if someone says like, hey, do you want to go out and do something? We're like, yeah, we got this Friday available. So we always know that we have a time available to do things with people. So it takes the stress out of, oh, I have no time to book things with people. Already all pre-booked in our calendar. We just have to slot people into the Fridays when they come up. And then all the other times we're not available because that's when we're dedicated to the family. So it's having these little tricks and techniques will really make your life a lot easier and intentional.
So one last thing that I want to address is you could set up the foundation or the environment so that it supports you taking care of yourself. But what if at the end of the day, you just feel guilty taking the time away from your family? How would you address that and overcome the feeling of guilt?
Oh, I actually, that's easy for me. I don't feel guilty because I know that I'm showing up as the best version of myself every Sunday. I walk the kids to school every day. I eat breakfast with the kids every day. I eat dinner with the kids almost every day. So I don't feel guilty if I'm taking time for myself because I know that I'm around a lot still. So that goes to the word intentionality. Do you want quantity time or quality times with the kids? We just focus on really having great quality time with the kids. And I don't feel guilty when I'm off doing something else because I know I've hit a bunch of quality points with the kids. So that's my answer. Just focus on having that quality time with the kids and you're intentional when you're with them.
And one other thing one could consider doing is if they aren't getting time for self-care is being mindful of how often they're being triggered or not being their best selves or being short with their family member, their partner, or their kids, and how that effect trickles into all aspects of their life.
I'm glad you brought that up. So yeah, if you're being short, if you're not, you all know what it is. Like if you're quick to frustration, you're using very curt words to your spouse or to your children. You're yelling at the children. You're yelling at your spouse. You're not the best version of yourself. And the reason for that is, and Laura and I took this from a dog trainer, like literally from a dog trainer, but it applies to humans as well. Your cup is probably full. You're probably a full cup. The reason you're short is you just have nothing left to give anyone else, and your patience is just gone. It's shot. We've all been like that. That's a sign that, wow, you need to adjust your schedule to get more time for yourself so that you reduce how full your cup is and you have more patience to give to your family. So you're not that short-tempered or yelling at the kids. You're able to absorb, those frustrating moments and be intentional with your kids and work through those moments or through those moments, your spouse. So, if you're listening to this and you find yourself being that individual that is short and easily frustrated and annoyed you know, look at, well, what's actually annoying you, and can you remove some things from your life to allow you to be a more patient and intentional spouse to your partner, and then to a father or a mother to your kids. That's where, talking about self-care comes in. The only reason you're frustrated is that you haven't done something to make you unfrustrated. That's the only reason what it is.
Yeah. So can you remove one task and replace it with a new activity that energizes you and lifts you up?
Yeah, 100%. So the only person you have to blame if you're frustrated is yourself.
So for any listeners who want to start incorporating self-care into their lives, what is one challenge or action item you could suggest that they, as a strategy to begin?
Well, I want to, before I even go there, I want to say one other thing, and you know, and definitely in the male side, um, and I don't know, you can talk more on the female side, but what happens on the male side, and it happened in my 30s. I'm like, what's going on? When I was working really hard and I wasn't giving myself time, and I was burning the candle at both ends. Um, Obviously, you have, where we're talking about, your individuals could be short and everything like that. Um, but also physical manifestations of stress start coming. Your body actually starts reacting to this. And I've talked to other individuals, males, about this, and it really comes in so many different ways. And I want to bring it up because um, I think it's important, but a few ways how stress manifests itself in my body, and it put me in the hospital. I didn't know what was going on, but I get really, really, really intense gas buildup that is debilitating, and it feels like my appendix has exploded. And I can't even eat food, and the best way to describe it is I'm vomiting burps. So that's where it comes in the front end. And then on the back end, and I've referenced this before, I get hemorrhoids. So either I get hemorrhoids or I get a really bad gas buildup, and I feel like I'm vomiting burps, and it's absolutely debilitating. That was actually the highest end of the stress. I'm like, what's going on? And it was all stress induced. And why I talk about that is that if you're an individual and you're seeing some physical ailments, it could be your body going, hey, way too much going on here. We need a timeout, and you need to take care of yourself, because, hey, if I'm in my bed, not able to eat, or if I'm in the hospital, well, I'm definitely not showing up as the best version of myself to my spouse and my kids. So I owe it to them to take care of myself so I can actually physically be there, because I couldn't even physically be there. So I wanted to add that in as well. Just, if you're not taking care of yourself, your body's going to take you out of the equation one way or another.
Yep, exactly. And I think that's it for males and females as well. Stress can show up in many different forms, and having that self-care implemented in your own lifestyle is something that can help to reduce the effects of it. And so if we're talking about times of stress for, you, how it has revealed itself for me, it certainly has revealed myself, or has presented itself in ways that a lot of people don't talk about. And I know that I have friends who have experienced this as well, in the form of hair loss. So I have a lot of hair. You can't see this, but throughout stressful times in my life, I have had periods of alopecia, where hair will just fall out in patches. And so that's a really good indication for me to determine how things are going and how I'm managing my stress levels. And I am happy to say that my stress levels at this point are under control with regular activity, exercise, and those patches. I got a haircut about a month ago, and my hairdresser did check my hair, and there isn't anything right now. Now, I know that there's more to it and it can go in cycles, but that is definitely a way that it presents itself for me. So for any listeners who want to start prioritizing self-care, what are some action items or one action item you would encourage them to start, or one way they can incorporate this into their life?
Well, I'd say you just make a list of things that you want to start doing or you want to improve in your life. And you and I operate differently. I'll book it and then figure out how to get time around it. Whereas you as an individual plan to how to make time around it. So I'm kind of booking the commitment and then after the fact making time to fit that commitment in. Whereas you will make the time and then put the commitment in. But I'd say take action.
I would say thing. Like take action and start small.
Oh, start small. Right? Yeah.
You know, you could just start by booking one thing in one day in the week, right? It can be for 1 hour, but just start small, see how you enjoy it, and then go from there. And I work out once a week. So it really doesn't, you don't have to be working out 5 times a week. Even 3 times a week, I don't do, but just start once a week and see how that goes.
Yeah, just book it. And once you book it, you'll make time to fit it in. You will be able to find the time. You just got to sit down, map out your whole week, move things around, start removing things out of your schedule. I can tell you, you can do this. But if you if you start taking care of yourself, you're going to be a better version of yourself, and success, however you defined it, is going to come flooding in.
And you never regret prioritizing yourself and taking care of yourself.
Yep. Yeah. And again, like we've seen it all. Like if you don't take care of yourself, you're going to end up dead or divorced. And that's the truth.
Yeah.
Ask anyone that's older. They'll agree.
For anyone who wants to share their success stories, they can reach out to us on Instagram, DM us, and share their success stories. Or if they're looking for support, reach out anytime.